Hey, I'm Cian. I'm from Burlington. I'm vocals and die alone, and I'm in a new project playing drums in a band called National Security. So I think the number one influence growing up would have to be Thin Lizzy, introduced by my dad. That was kind of the gateway into just rock in general. My personal influences, though, like being a drummer, would have to be Dave Lombardo. I know it's a very cliche answer. Dave Lombardo, number one, hands down. Mike Smith from Suffocation as well. I always tried to copy his style of blast beats. Vocal-wise, I know Die Alone doesn't really sound like it, but I think Matt Brusso from Bury Your Dead is like my number one frontman. Fucking awesome mosh calls. I've swiped shamelessly many of his mosh calls as well. And my family, obviously, because my family was very musically inclined. My dad and my mom both had a sense of rhythm, and I think that's kind of what got us into music in general. So I would say those are my influences, straight up. So punk, I have a very, very distinct memory of just being a kid playing around in the apartment with my mom while she was playing the Sex Pistols, and I think that was the very first time I'd ever heard of them. But when I was properly introduced to punk would be through my uncle, where he introduced me to the Sex Pistols, Ramones, all the classic kind of punk stuff. My dad, like I said, introduced me to Thin Lizzy and Metallica, but then finally that gateway into the realm of metal and hardcore was when my uncle introduced me and my brother to Slayer, and that's when shit just got fucking real, man. It was like, that was the band. It was heavier than Metallica. It was scary, man. Like, we were raised Irish Catholic, and it was a fucking frightening band. Like, my dad was like, you shouldn't be listening to this. It's devil's music. And my uncle's like, he's like the crack dealer of like Slayer. Like, you want some more Seasons in the Abyss? And we're like, fuck yeah, dude. And that was the band. And that got me and my brother into thrash metal, into death metal, and then eventually into hardcore. So that was our introduction into metal. But personally for me, my introduction into hardcore was Agnostic Front.
Me too.
I was going through a weird phase in high school. I stopped listening to a lot of thrash metal, and I was just listening to like a lot of rock music, a lot of electronic music, and I didn't know where to go musically. But then I found Agnostic Front, Victim in Pain, and I thought it was fucking awesome. But at the same time, it was a bit of a product of its time, like being 15, right? So then I found hardcore shows on YouTube, like live sets, specifically of a band called Final Fight, and I thought it was way crazier. Like, the shows looked crazier than metal shows. Like, metal shows just looked like a bunch of dudes just kind of playing bumper cars with each other. But then I would see the show of like Final Fight, this one band. They're from California. They were a small band, but they were like my gateway band. And people were stage diving, and they were like fucking dancing and shit, and it looked really fucking cool. And after that, I was just Googling hardcore bands, and that kind of just started my journey on that. And that would have been in summer 2010, yeah. My first show, well, technically a show, like my brother mentioned, would have been April Wine when I was a kid, but I can't really remember any of that. But my first actual like show, concert, where like I went to a venue and I stood at a stage, would have been Creator and Exodus in 2009. They played with Warbringer as well, and another band, I can't remember their name. But it was unforgettable, man. I was fucking terrified, first of all, because like I had a lot of noise sensitivity issues at that point. I remember my mom took me to Guelph, which is like 20 minutes outside of where we live, to buy the tickets at some like ticket place. And then she gave me the day off school. and it was just a crazy awesome time, man. Like, I will never forget that. I was like shitting my pants scared, but I knew it would be so fucking awesome because I'd been listening to Creator and Exodus for like a number of years before that, so I knew all of their songs. But then when we got to the venue, man, it was like, it was just it was something else, dude. It was I remember I have this distinct memory, like I just spent the whole night fucking headbanging. I was a little too nervous to go into the pit, and I just remember some dude beside me fucking, he gave me like the, yo, do you want me to like let you crowd surf? And I'm like, no. I was too fucking nervous, man, but I will never forget that day. That was like where I'm like, okay, I guess I'm in this shit for life now, man. Favorite shows, the first one that sticks out would be East Coast Tsunami 2017. Made the trip down with my brother, another friend of ours, and a few others, and it was fucking awesome, man. It was just good vibes. Every time we're in Pennsylvania, it's just, everyone takes care of us, everyone looks after us, we make a shit ton of friends. It's a fucking great time, man. Another one, obviously, again, Pennsylvania, This Is Hardcore 2014. Just a crazy lineup, man. Madball, E-Town Concrete, Turnstile, Power Trip, Death Before Dishonor, fucking Knuckle Dust, man. Like, crazy stacked lineup. Shit that you probably will never see again. And I was really, really privileged to be able to go see that shit. Local shows now, I want to say, are some of my favorites, just because it feels like more of a scene than it ever was before. There's nothing specific. It's just going to a local show now. It just feels very at home, just with a lot of friends and a lot of hanging out, and it just feels great. I'm sure there's more, but right off the top of my head, I just want to say shout out to Steel City Hardcore. Craziest thing, first thing that comes to mind was Steel City Hardcore's Halloween party. It was just fucking packed, man. Like, it was packed. You couldn't even move. And it was at a place called the Kill Room. And the Kill Room has a very, very narrow exit. Probably maybe like this wide if you're lucky. So when you have a venue that packed and everyone tries to get out if there's a fire hazard, you're fucked, man. And people were smoking joints in there, smoking cigarettes and shit. And it's a skate park venue, so it's all wood. So if one of those things were to go up in flames, man, we'd all be fucked. So I stood outside for 2 of the band's sets. There was like 6 or 7 bands that night, but I stood out for 2 of their sets because I'm like, yo, it's too fucked in there, man. Like, if something goes wrong, shit's gonna hit the fan. It's gonna be like that Great White show, the club show where it burned down. Yeah, exactly. But also the craziest, like, stupidest fucking thing at a show was when I saw Biohazard in 2014, I think. And it was just a bunch of fucking, and no offense to the old guys, but just a bunch of fucking stupid old guys. And one of them spilled a beer in the pit, and another one was eating a bag of Doritos in the pit and spilled those. So the combination of the two was just a grease fest. So you couldn't mosh anymore. I couldn't fucking mosh to punishment. What the fuck, man? That's crazy stupid. Fuck those guys. Leave the dancing to the young kids, man. Unless you can dance. Past and current bands. So I played in a couple of bands that just only played like 1 or 2 shows. I never really got anywhere, but the first actual band that I was in, a band called Born Without Hope that I played drums in. And then after that would be my current band, Die Alone, that I'm vocals in. And finally, like, we're starting up another project, me, my brother, and a good friend of ours. We're going to be called, well, we are called National Security, and yes, it is after the Martin Lawrence movie. And it's I'm going to be playing drums again in that band. and it's just gonna be like crazy, heavy, metallic hardcore slash beat down kind of shit. I'd say the thing that I like most about being a musician is just, especially being a vocalist, just getting the crowd moving. Like my energy projects onto them. And I know it's the most like bullshit cliche ass answer, but it's so fucking true, man. Being a drummer was really fun too because I got to write my own fills and stuff like that. But I didn't particularly enjoy it too much playing it live because it was really stressful. I couldn't really figure out the ins and outs of setting up and tearing down in time. It was just a really stressful environment for me. But yeah, being a vocalist is just fucking awesome, man. I'd say the thing I dislike most about being in a band, especially being a vocalist, is just how fucking like taxing it is, man. Like afterwards, I don't want to talk to anyone. And sometimes I just feel like a fucking asshole, you know? Like I feel like people are like of course I'm my own worst enemy, but I feel like people are like, oh, yo, this guy's a fucking dick, or he's acting like an asshole. When I'm just like, I'm just a quiet guy in general, man. So I think that's it, is when I, like, the thing I dislike the most is when I come home after a show and I'm just kind of second guessing myself. And I'm like, oh, fuck, I shouldn't have said that. Or like, oh, I acted like a dick in front of that dude, or I said the wrong thing. Like, just shit like that, right? Like, it's such, like, as lame as it sounds, it's such an emotional experience being on stage and like really just like yelling at people for like 25 minutes that when you get off stage you're like the people in like the weed commercial where they just want to sit in a chair and just deflate for like fucking 20 minutes. So yeah, there are pros and cons for both, mostly pros obviously because it's fucking hardcore and that's the shit. But yeah, that's it, man. First of all, I want to say no shoutouts to Cian Byrne, the wing champion of the GTA. He has a wing night for every single day of the week, but fuck you. Wings are good, but they're not that good. Tacos, motherfucker. Tacos is where it's at. Kensington Market, there's like 12 different taco places. Take your pick, man. Fucking, there's a taco for any occasion. Also, shout out to Akusha Ramen on Queen Street and Akusha Ramen on Queen Street 2 doors down because they have a chicken shop and they have a pork shop. That's how you know that there's good fucking places around, man. Tacos and ramen. Wings are good though. Yanks is a good spot. No love for Dickens. No love for Gator Ted's. No love for Duff's. A lot of shitty wings out there. So for the wing champion, Connor, I'm coming for you. Useless talent, I can speedrun the first Super Mario Bros. I can't do number 2, I can't do number 3, I can't do World. I'm working on Ninja Gaiden for the NES, but I can speedrun the first Super Mario Bros. That's my useless talent, because I'm not gonna fucking impress anyone with that shit. I just want to say thanks to Steve and Stronger Than Ever Videos, and thank you very much for having me on, and for having Connor on, and for just shouting out Die Alone and shit. Pew, 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 pew.